Hey everybody, welcome to our Winona Prospective Patient webinar. I'm Angela and I'm here today with the one and only Dr. Kat Brown, and we are excited to answer your questions about menopause, and I'm going to let Dr. Kat take it away.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Kat Brown and I am the Winona doctor primarily for Pennsylvania, but I also take care of patients in Florida as well. And so we're here to answer your questions, but I wanted to start off and talk about a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I spent all week so far running a plant sale at my children's school this week. So volunteered for our home and school and kind of ordered all these plants and have been selling plants, and I restructured my schedule this week. So I've literally been outside every day selling plants and teaching kids about the plants and herbs and things like that. So I wanted to talk to you about the benefit that gardening has for our well-being and really for mindset. So there's been a lot of research. You can actually, I'll put some articles in the chat as well, because there's been studies done and research done that says that actually gardening can be therapeutic and actually can be kind of a defense against depression, anxiety. They say that actually getting your hands in the dirt and actually being exposed to some of this stuff in the dirt actually can release endorphins in your brain. So there's actually a new field called like horticultural therapy. So really, really interesting. I was not a gardener and not into plants or anything except for like maybe having basil and tomato plants to be able to make caprese salads for myself in the past. But I got very much into gardening during COVID when we were all homebound and we couldn't really go anywhere or do anything. And then of course, my teenager was on TikTok and I needed to know what the heck he was doing. So I created a TikTok account to try to follow him and to see what he was doing. But I found myself following all these farmers and gardeners. And there's this whole sub community on TikTok that's called Plant Talk. And I have learned so much about gardening and learned tips from people all over the country. And so now this has become a very big part of my life. And I myself noticed, especially going through, like I'm in perimenopause now, I noticed that when I am just not doing well, if I just get outside and get some sunshine and get out in the garden, like almost any stress or anything I have melts away. I might get sore, I might get tight and, get sore from squatting and doing things in the garden, but like, it doesn't matter because my mindset's already in a great place, like after being in the garden. So just wanted to share that. And I found some articles that I can share. I'm going to put, there's one from Healthline that really talks about the benefits of gardening on your health. Basically says helps fight disease, builds strength, improves your memory, improves your cognition, can reduce your stress, all kinds of benefits. So if you're not somebody who gardens, something to think about. And I'll add a link here. I'm going to cut and paste some things here. And let me find the other one. I'll find it and I'll put it on. But anyway, that's what I wanted to start out with. Do we have some questions? Angela, do we have some things to start talking about?
We do. And I love that you just added that because I think it's a really interesting topic and really helpful for women to consider, especially coming from a physician who's advising us of the health benefits of gardening. I think that's a bonus.
Yes. The other one, this Psychology Today article, it's gardening and mental health. This was actually written by a psychiatrist.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And I'm actually making a note myself. This webinar is all, I guess everybody here is a prospective patient. So they have lots of questions for us about Winona. Their first question for us tonight is about estrogen dominance. They've been told it's a thing. And if I have extra estrogen in my body, I would go into estrogen dominance, and that's not a good thing. But now I'm finally with Winona. I need estrogen. What's the difference?
Well, so I have to start off. We had the same question with our current patients that came up. If you look in all of our textbooks and all of our journals of obstetrics and gynecology, the term estrogen dominance does not exist as a diagnosis. When I see a patient in the office, I can't even code this as a diagnosis. It does not exist. So there's a school of thought that there's some people out there that talk about estrogen dominance and that really believe that this is a condition. But what the problem is, it's not very descriptive. So it's not that your body is making too much estrogen. As we age as women, it's not even possible that we could have too much estrogen. We are born with all the eggs that we are ever going to have and all of our potential for estrogen production when we are like embryos. And when we're born, we have all the eggs we're ever going to have throughout our life. And so every time we have a period, we're releasing an egg. So that clock starts ticking and our egg count starts going down as we age. So almost all women have a paucity or a lack of estrogen as we go through the menopause time. So what the estrogen dominance situation is like is that your other hormones in your system, the hormonal environment in your system is off balance, so that sometimes you can get too low of progesterone to make the estrogen seem dominant. Or you may have in situations like PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. In that situation, there's like this miscommunication between the hormones, and you can get excessive testosterone and precursors of testosterone in your system. And sometimes that causes estrogenic effects to be higher too in some of those patients. They can get a thickening of the lining of the uterus. So it's more about the estrogen in relationship to these other hormones that kind of makes the estrogen seem higher, but it's not that you make more estrogen than any other woman. All women have the same estrogen levels. It's just that how they are in relationship to the other hormones is off balance in some patients. So even a woman who's been told she's estrogen dominant, when she goes through menopause, she's not going to be dominant anymore. She's going to lose estrogen rapidly. So that's why adding estrogen back in is beneficial to you to treat those menopause symptoms.
Okay. We have a question about weight. And I guess the interesting part of this question is wanting to know what sets Winona apart from regular doctors. The question is, can Winona do something that other doctors can't? This person's saying that they feel the heaviest and the worst that they've ever felt, and doctors say that it could just be their hormones. So I guess the question is, how are we going to really assist them differently than their current physician?
Well, I think that if you have a physician that is comfortable prescribing hormone therapy, then we're no different than them. But the problem is that there's so many physicians and other providers out there that just do not feel comfortable. There's been a couple studies over the years that have given hormones a bad rap, and as a result, there's not been great data, a great response, and not a lot of doctors are comfortable prescribing hormones. So there's just some doctors that just flat out will not give HRT at all. And so Winona really exists for those patients to get access who don't have a doctor who feels comfortable. So we're all board certified OBGYN physicians. So we've done a residency for 4 years in obstetrics and gynecology. And now with Winona, we're specializing in menopause, but many of us still practice full scope obstetrics and gynecology when we're not online doing your Winona charts and everything. So the main difference is that you could see a family doctor, you could see an OBGYN, but when you talk to them about your issues with your weight, they might throw other things at you. There's other medications out there that can help with weight management that might be more like anti-diabetic medications. That's not really what Winona is. So we're really focusing on the weight gain that comes as a result of our hormonal changes around menopause. So if you feel like your weight gain was related to hormones, then our Winona meds should significantly help, because it'll help to kind of bring you back into balance.
Awesome. I was just telling Dr. Kat that we had lots of questions in the women's group about DHEA, and I see that is coming up here in our chat. One of the next questions is from Monique. She's nervous about DHEA. She says she's reading a lot about it in the women's Facebook group, and that she's currently using the pills along with DHEA. So maybe we can talk to like why women are so nervous about the DHEA.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the biggest issue is that when you get online and you Google DHEA, you find a lot of very negative information about DHEA. And the reason being is that DHEA in much larger doses is used by the bodybuilding community as a performance enhancing medication. So DHEA actually breaks down when your body metabolizes it into estrogen and testosterone. So guys can pump themselves full of a lot of DHEA and increase their testosterone levels, which can help them pump more iron. If they're athletes, it can help them perform better. But we're not using those same doses. So when you see all those crazy warnings like stay away, do not take this, do not take with estrogen, they're really looking at those much higher doses that are used by that community of people that are really hoping to like really bulk up their muscle mass for more performance, like enhancing benefits of the DHEA. So we use DHEA in lower doses. We start patients typically off at 25 milligrams. And then the highest I ever get a patient to is 50 milligrams of DHEA. And we feel that those doses are safe enough that they're not going to cause the masculinizing side effects that taking testosterone can do. And really, it's not anywhere near the dose that you would see, when you read all this negative stuff about DHEA online. So that's the main thing. But I want to add that I think it's good as a patient to be nervous about any new medication that you're taking and to read as much as you can about the medication. Just be wary of the source of where you're reading the information from. So Facebook, you're getting people's opinions, right? So if we surveyed everybody in America on, pepperoni pizza, we'd get the people that hate it and the people that absolutely love it. And 85% of the people in the middle that are okay with pepperoni pizza and would be fine with it wouldn't ever respond. So you have to remember that about Facebook and about forums and about chat rooms. You're getting the very, very upset people and the super, super happy people, not the bulk of everyone in the middle. And so just take that with a grain of salt. You're getting a lot of opinions. So if you really have concerns and you want to talk to your doctor about it when you start with Winona, message us. We can talk through this with you and help you to feel more comfortable. But I think it's important as a patient to just always look and be cognizant of and aware of what you're taking and, find out what you're taking, what medication for, because the more knowledgeable you are, the more power you have as a patient. And I love that. And let my patients know and ask more questions about the medications because I want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah, that's really
cat, like cleaning its paws.
This guy, he's just like, he will not. I've been trying to get him out of the picture the whole time, and he's not.
He's the star. He wants to get on camera.
He's like me. Oh, gosh, this cat. He's a Leo, of course. So we have somebody who is 54 and in menopause. She says she started the cream 1 week ago. The hot flashes increased a lot last week, but have lessened throughout the week. And she's gained 30 pounds this year. She hasn't started the DHEA yet and wanted to see what symptoms improved with the cream first.
Okay. There's not really a question in that though, right?
It's sort of just like sharing, I feel. Unless this is asking for like, do we think that's the right way to go? Or I've
seen as a result of the Facebook group, I feel like a lot of patients are starting this delayed start of the DHEA, and that's totally fine. But there's no real science behind that says it's better to do that rather than starting all the medications at once as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not uncommon to get hot flashes initially as your first starting medication because it takes a little while for the meds to kind of stabilize in your system and for you to get a steady state of that medication on board in your system. So, I always tell patients, give it the first couple weeks before you really start evaluating how you feel on it. You really need to get the medication on board and in your system before you kind of judge it.
Mm-hmm. So it's more like that your symptoms can be a little bit haywire as opposed to, I think Sandy,
right.
Do they have to get worse before they get better? It's more just they might be inconsistent.
It just need to be equilibrated a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question from Julie says, I started Winona estradiol cream and DHEA. I'm feeling better energy-wise, and it's my 3rd month, but my weight isn't coming off. I feel I've gained a bit. I started March 24th. Will that level off and help me to lose weight? And then it says promise, and then it cuts off. So I'm not sure if that was the end of the sentence or not, but that's what I got.
Yeah. So when you first start HRT, it's not uncommon to gain a little bit of weight because it's mainly water retention. Also, just our body kind of slows down. Our metabolism slows a little bit down when we're giving hormones, just because your body all of a sudden has a new environment, a new, milieu or whatever of the hormones in your system. So, it's about your body kind of getting those on board, getting everything regulated. And it takes time to gain weight. It's also going to take time to lose weight. Kind of like reversing a train. I know Dr. Green likes to use that analogy. It's like, trying to stop a moving train. Like you can't just stop it and turn it right around. Like you have to stop it, get it to stop, and then slowly start it. Then it'll go the other direction if you wanted to go reverse. So sometimes after a couple months, I would say after 2 or 3 months, if you have kind of plateaued or you're not gaining anymore, but you're not really losing, we could start talking about other things. One of the other things I tell my patients a lot is that when we're trying to lose weight, it's important to look at what you're eating. And one of the things I notice my patients don't get enough of is protein. So if you are, trying to lose weight and you're cutting calories and you're trying to eat healthy, take a look at your meals and make sure that you're getting enough protein, because protein is like the building block of our muscles, right? So if we're not getting enough protein in our diet, our body's in starvation mode. It doesn't matter how little our calorie count is. You could have 1,400 calories and being a deficit every day, thinking you should be losing weight. Meanwhile, your body's like, oh gosh, I'm in starvation mode. I'm not getting enough protein. Let me hold on to every calorie I have. So, it's one of those things that you have to feed your body the good stuff to shed the bad stuff. So you have to make sure you get enough protein on board and making sure you're drinking enough water. But we could also tweak your medications as well. So talk to your Winona doctor to see if maybe we could change doses up a little bit to see if we can help you a little bit more.
Awesome. Yeah, the other thing I think on what you're saying for myself, Dr. Kat, I've noticed that with the upping of the protein, but also sleeping, which I know is sort of a catch-22.
Yes.
A lot of women in menopause can't sleep because of hot flashes or whatever your symptoms are. But if you can sleep more, and that's hard for a lot of us.
Yes.
But the sleeping really helps with the cortisol for me, right?
Yes.
So that's
absolutely. Because when we're not sleeping and we're chronically in that sleep deprived state, you're in that fight or flight mode all the time, a high stress, high cortisol state.
Yep.
And you're not going to shed a pound when you're in that mode. It doesn't matter. So if you're thinking about do I get an extra hour of sleep or do I get up early to work out? Get the sleep. Sleep is always the priority because that will definitely help.
It's such a big thing. I used to not believe that, but it's true. It's so true. Okay. Somebody else here is excited about the conversation we're having. Excited about what you say. I've heard hormone therapy can be tricky. How do we address this? Stacy, maybe you can tell us more about what you mean by tricky. I don't know if that's tricky to find the balance or what that means exactly.
What the question is. Yeah.
Okay. The person before who was saying, sorry, she didn't finish her sentence. She was saying, she started Winona March 24th and promises she's eaten well and has been healthy. So I think that was speaking to her weight gain, and she was sort of
gotcha.
piggybacking on the fact that she's been doing her best to be healthy.
So don't despair, Julie. So sometimes it's just a matter of we'll see that the hot flashes and the night sweats will get better first. Then we'll start noticing the vaginal dryness improves. Then most patients start to get, the brain fog starts to lift and the cognition gets better. The weight loss is one of the later things to happen once we kind of get everything balanced. So it might just be that you need a little bit more time. I like that she promises that she's eating healthy, though. That's great.
Good thing, because I cannot claim that. I do, but I don't. But the thing that's interesting too about the time frame, we see this a lot in the women's group too, where we set this benchmark that 90 days, 3 months is sort of when the minimal amount of time we need in order to start seeing the results. But I think a lot of women attach to that date very firmly. 90 days and I don't see any change, so it must not be working. And I think it's more a long game, right? That you're playing. It's not that, I mean, some people do by 90 days or 30 days or whatever, but we're all different. The thing that I noticed though is that just this sort of real desperate need to want to see, especially with weight. The other day, my question to the women's group was, what is the biggest concern that you have right now in your menopause journey? 90% of the answers were weight gain. So I think, and just speaking to that part for a second about how hard it is for women to, you know, we'd rather suffer with hot flashes or any of the other symptoms through menopause. We'd be miserable if it just meant we could lose the weight, right? And I think that that says a lot about how we are as women in this society we live in today's world, that that's such a hyper focus for all of us. That's like, gosh, I'll feel better if I could just wear my normal pants, you know, even if everything else is, you know, not working out. So
no, it's so true. I mean, there's definitely a stigma, and, you know, men don't have to deal with that nearly as much as we do, because, you know, all these models on every cover of magazine are, you know, waif thin and airbrushed, and everything looks perfect. And, you know, for many of us, if we had that nice figure most of our life, even in between babies or whatever else, and then we get to menopause and we start to get that meno belly we talk about, and it's mainly central fat that we start collecting, because that's where we put fat when we're in a stress response.
Right.
It just happens. And so, yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think that, you know, we all want that instant fix. Everyone wants to like go to bed one night and wake up with our old body like yesterday. We all want it back. You know, we look at pictures and we look back at ourselves and think, gosh, like back then we didn't appreciate the body we had, and we wish we could go back in time and get that again. But I think that the more important thing to think about is how you feel. How well does your body move? How well does your body do the things that you want it to do? You know, forget about the size. In fact, like, I'm a proponent now of like, cut the size out of your pants. Like, once you find a pair of jeans that fit good,
there you go,
you feel amazing in, and that you feel confident in, who cares if they're a size 14 versus a size 8? Who cares? Like, cut the size off. Like, you know, I forget what brand. There was one brand of clothing that at some point started putting in their labels, like, you know, size fabulous, size beautiful, instead of like actually putting the number, because there's such a negative connotation with these numbers, you know, and unfortunately it's like we've all been brainwashed. And I, you know, having a little girl myself, like, I try really, really hard not to say anything negative about my body in front of the mirror when she's in an earshot. I try not to like comment on other people's bodies at all, like trying so hard to not perpetuate that body image drama for the next generation. You know, just so that it's not something that continues, because unfortunately our generation has seen that way too much.
Okay, so Denise says her hormone doctor that she's been seeing for 3 years has been giving her 200 milligrams of DHEA pellets, and then found out that she was getting too much for her body. Why are some hormone doctors prescribing more, and we are telling her that she needs less, specifically the DHEA?
So back to testosterone. So testosterone pellets are very, very popular. A lot of people use them. A lot of doctors place them. Pellet therapy is something totally different. You know, it's basically putting a concentrated bolus of a hormone under the skin that will release over time, right? So the downside to testosterone basically is that if you give too much testosterone, it can actually cause masculinizing side effects. So it would be great for your sex drive. It'll make your libido go through the roof. Might even help you work out a little harder, but you might get some facial hair and your voice might change a little bit. You might get some chest hair, and, you know, that's not always ideal as a woman, especially going through menopause. Yeah. So the big difference is that we at Winona, because we are a telemedicine company, we can't prescribe testosterone. And I think that's the best option, because honestly, like, I would want to see you and be able to examine you and follow those side effects very, very closely, so that I can make sure that you're not experiencing the masculinizing side effects. So basically, I want you, to only do testosterone if you're seeing a doctor in person. So, and also testosterone, because it's used also like along with the DHEA in high doses by the bodybuilding community to help bulk up, testosterone is actually a controlled substance. Similar to, narcotics. It's something that doctors are tracked for when they're prescribing it. I actually am an Army veteran, and I saw a huge problem with testosterone abuse among our soldiers. So I, as a gynecologist, I took care of a lot of female soldiers, but also a lot of wives of soldiers. And I'll tell you, a lot of these guys, especially I was at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, we took care of the special forces there. A lot of those men took extra testosterone so they could perform better and they could do better in their physical fitness tests and everything. Well, guess what happened? They took so much testosterone that their testicles actually shrunk. Because when you're giving so much testosterone from outside the body's like, oh, cool, I don't need to make this anymore. So the testes basically like shrivel up. And guess where these women were coming? To the gynecologist, because now they can't get pregnant because their husband's testicles have shrunken so small that they're not producing semen and they're not producing sperm. And they can't get pregnant. So a lot of these women were having to get donor sperm and use in vitro fertilization to be able to get pregnant because of testosterone abuse. So that's why we can't do testosterone through telemedicine, basically. Long story short.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes good sense. Okay, here's our popular question we get asked a lot. How can you diagnose, I guess this means if you're in menopause or where you are, without a blood test, or is there one and how does it work?
Yeah. So, there are blood tests out there and there are blood tests that are available that your doctor could order for you. The only blood test to me that is worth information, it tells me after menopause has completed. If there's nothing that I can do in a blood test, it'll tell me exactly like, oh, maybe say next Friday, you're going to complete menopause. Doesn't work that way. Our hormones can actually fluctuate from morning to evening, from day to day. They're released in a pulsatile fashion, so there is no set number based on your age or where you are. The one thing that a lot of people will test for is FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. When that goes very, very high, that means that you're menopausal range, basically. So if a woman has maybe had a hysterectomy and they don't have a uterus anymore, so I can't judge when their last period was to know if they've gone through menopause or not. So in the office, I would often, like if I thought somebody was menopausal and they just wanted confirmation to be like, hey, yeah, you're done. We would get an FSH level, and if it was through the roof, I could say, yep, you're done. Likely that you're done. But it doesn't tell me to figure out like what hormones you're going to need to replace. So if we were to get a room of 10 women and to see those 10 women, maybe they were at the same phase of perimenopause, probably half of them aren't even going to have symptoms. Some of them are going to have symptoms and their labs would be all over the place. So why would we treat based on a number from a blood test compared to a woman who's having symptoms? So we want to treat based on your symptoms. If you're having hot flashes that are distressing, if you're having night sweats that are bothersome, vaginal dryness, if you're having all the signs of menopause and you're suffering from it and it's affecting your life day to day, that's what we treat, not a number on a paper. It's not the same as getting a chemistry level. It's not the same as getting a complete blood count and seeing what your hemoglobin level is. It's not the same. The hormones don't behave the same as those cellular numbers do on those other tests. So that's why, we diagnose based on your symptoms, not based on the blood test. If you really want to know and you want the blood test and you can ask your family doctor to do it, go ahead and do it. You can do it, just to see where you're at and see what it is. But just know that those numbers are less important to us to figure out where you are in the process and to figure out what you need for treatment. Your symptoms are much more important for that.
We have some people saying they want to sign up. Where do I sign up for Winona?
Great.
This is good. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a link in the chat, everybody. So if you haven't already gone through and taken the quiz and, gotten started with an account, I'll put a link so that you know.
Well, we can talk about that too, like the onboarding process. So it's pretty easy. So when you go to our website, which is bywinona.com, you'll go in and actually, I think the first thing it does is ask you your state to see if like we're in your state. It'll ask you some symptom questions, and you'll select like what symptoms you're experiencing. And then it'll go through and ask you your medical history. We want you to be as thorough as possible, telling us exactly what medications you're taking, what medical problems you've been diagnosed with, because your doctor needs to know the most about you to be able to safely prescribe medication for you. So basically that process really only takes, if you're pretty diligent and you know your own body and you know what you're taking, it won't take you but a couple minutes to fill that out. And then basically it'll ask you if you have questions. It'll ask you like what form of medication that you're most interested in. We do have hormones in the cream form, so topically that you would rub on the skin. We have patch form, and we also have pill form. So it'll ask you what your preference is, and then basically you'll be linked with a doctor. Your information will be submitted, and I think that'll be after you put your demographic information in, and how you want to pay for the medications. Then a doctor like me will get your chart on their dashboard, and basically I look and make sure that you are who you say you are, that we need a driver's license or a government issued ID with your date of birth, and I match that with a selfie to make sure that you're the same person and not some fake person or catfish or something. And then I review your medical history and make sure that you're a safe candidate for these medications, because I don't want to prescribe anything to anybody that's going to hurt them. So we make sure that, you don't have any medical conditions that would make taking HRT a little bit more dangerous for you. And if I have questions, I will message you. Like I have patients' charts that come across my desk and I like, oh, they're on this medication. I know it's for this, but let me just double check, and I'll send a message like, what are you taking this medication for? Because I want to make sure I clarify before I just prescribe anything to you. So
that's really good information to have. The other thing I want to say too, sometimes people ask this question, they go through the process and then it'll say, please enter. It wants you to put like a card on with part of your profile, and people get upset or worried about like, are you charging my card if I haven't even done anything yet, and why do I have to put my card info there? So obviously that's for us to ship you your treatment plan once you agree on that, but we're not charging you in advance of anything. And you're also agreeing or deciding to the treatment plan that's prescribed for you. So for example, like when I have a plan, and when I first started, I didn't want everything in my plan yet. So I only started one item and then I added in. You don't have to, there's suggestions, right? So I guess just know that whatever your card is there for, you ultimately are getting to decide or approve whatever's going to go through the account. So just so everybody understands that there's nothing shady about the asking of the card. It's just part of the process so that we have it on file, because part of what we do to make it easy for you is that your shipment will keep coming to you, assuming that you're checking in with your physician and they continue to keep your treatment plan as it is. It will, you'll just go ahead and those things will automatically be sent to you at a normal time. So just so everybody knows that that's a normal part of it.
I mean, I guess I get this question all the time from patients. Do we take insurance? So we don't actually bill anything through insurance because it takes a lot of red tape to get approval for things and to get prior approval for things. And so we want to be able to help patients quickly and to help them not have to, go wait, a long time to get a medication approved. So we actually do not take insurance directly, but we do take the FSA and HSA cards. Like, so I have an HSA, so I put everything on my card, anything related to health expenses. So we do take those cards. You can use that. I've also had patients that if they get a printed copy of their prescriptions, they've been able to submit it and get reimbursed, from their insurances in some situations. But we don't bill your insurance directly, so you should know that up front.
Yeah. Okay. We have someone who is 59. Christina says she just became postmenopausal this year. She's been on DHEA and progesterone estrogen cream for about 3 weeks, and she's gained weight since using it. Her breasts are sore and she's bloated, and wants us to tell her if she will get better.
Yes, you will get better. Like I mentioned earlier, the weight gain is typically like bloating and water retention initially as your body's getting acclimated to the new hormones in your system. And so that's a temporary thing. In fact, I think it's better to just stay away from the scale the first few weeks. But the breast tenderness is actually very normal. Your breast tissue does respond to estrogen. And so the breast tenderness is something that we see pretty commonly, and it will go away on its own. If it doesn't, that means we might need to adjust your estrogen dose, but it should get better on its own.
Okay, we have somebody asking us, this is a good question. Delane wants to know, she's 43, has just started noticing symptoms, and is wondering if starting meds is too soon just yet. How long is it safe to be on HRT, DHEA, etc.?
Well, so it's not too soon if the symptoms are bothersome to you. So, it's really about your quality of life and how much the symptoms disrupt that quality of life. So if there are things that are bothersome to you, like if you're having hot flashes a lot, you're having night sweats a lot, you're not sleeping through the night, then I would say, why not start treatment? Why not feel better? Like, why not make this part of your life a positive part of your life? Like, why suffer and wait till it's worse? And a lot of women are on HRT for about 5 years, some women more. After a time period, you'll have that discussion with your doctor, like when and if you may want to try to go off the medication, and we can try you off it and see how you do. It's not something you have to take forever. Although if you talk to a lot of female gynecologists that have gone through menopause, like they'll say, like, you have to pry the estrogen out of our dead hands. Like, because we know the benefit and how much better we feel with estrogen on board. Like that, I don't know. Like, I think that, I don't want to stop it before I have to, you know, unless it's a real risk to continue taking it. So there's just so many positive health benefits of estrogen that me personally, I think I'm going to continue as long as I can.
Yeah, same. Okay, someone's circling back to the question about food and wanting to know how much protein daily should they be getting?
So it all kind of depends on your body type and your height and weight. But if you look online, you could search like protein requirement charts and stuff like that. But just to give you an example, like me, I'm 5'8", maybe 5'7 3/4" after having some herniated discs or something. But and I personally weigh a little over 200 pounds. So being 5'8" and 200 pounds, I personally need at least 120 grams of protein a day, which is a lot more than you think if I want to lose weight. I think the minimum, like the chart that I looked at, I should get a minimum of 60 milligrams of protein. And the max was like 120 when I looked at the chart for myself. And I think on the upper level of that is if you want to, gain muscle mass or if you want to lose weight. But you can look online for that. There's charts that are available in some weight management. I think a lot of like fitness sites and things like that. But almost everybody, like when I first started tracking protein and actually looking at how much protein I was getting, it was way too low. So actually for me and my kids, I started getting those Fairlife shakes. I don't know if anybody has those other parts of the country. Fairlife like filters their milk to concentrate the protein, but they also make a protein shake, and each one of them has like 26 grams of protein in it, and it tastes like chocolate milk. So my one child who doesn't eat very well, like meat, and he's very picky when it comes to that kind of stuff, I give him those protein shakes to just get extra protein in them. Obviously they're dairy based though. So if you can't do dairy, you'd have to find an alternative. But just trying to add more protein into your life is a good plan.
Mm-hmm. There's also a really good protein powder. It's made by Garden of Life. It's protein and protein.
Garden of Life has great products.
I started taking it because I have Crohn's disease. And so it was a really big benefit for me. Just the products across the board didn't bother my system. But aside from all that, they have it's a powder. You can put it in like a shake or a smoothie or whatever you make. With anything else, any other powders, if you put collagen powder in your drink or whatever, but you can do it like the protein powder if you don't get enough protein, because I don't eat a lot of meat, so that's hard, and I have a lot of other restrictions just for my own diet. So it's a good powder, and you can get it also protein with greens too. So if you're someone who doesn't get enough greens in your diet, and it's also, and you can see like what's in it. It's really healthy. The ingredients are identifiable things as opposed to a bunch of long
As opposed to like chemicals listed in
Yeah.
the ingredients.
Yeah, opposed to things that you can't pronounce that aren't things that should be going in your body. So it's a really good one. I can put a link in the chat as well if you're interested for the protein. Tracy has a question about, is it safe to use DHEA and estrogen cream if she has high blood pressure and cholesterol? Ooh, that's a good question.
It is safe as long as your high blood pressure is well controlled. So if you're on medication for your blood pressure, sometimes when you first start HRT, you might get a slight bump in your blood pressure. So I usually tell patients if they have a home cuff to kind of monitor it closely. If you do not have well-controlled blood pressure, like if every time you go to the doctor's it's high and it's not well regulated, then it would be a good idea to get that regulated before you start HRT. If you have high cholesterol, that just means you're at higher risk for heart disease, but that doesn't mean you can't take HRT. So if you're, being treated with that with a medication, it's still safe to take HRT. And HRT really shouldn't affect your numbers as far as your lipid panel, your cholesterol panel significantly. So that's something that, it wouldn't interfere.
Okay. Susan has a question about HRT. Will it help with rosacea and acne that is suddenly happening with menopause?
Well, so if your rosacea and acne are hormonally reactive, then it might help. But our DHEA can have the side effect of causing some acne in some patients. And so if you have a problem with that already, you might want to hold off on the DHEA personally. And then rosacea is something that can respond to a lot of things like foods we eat, alcohol, chocolate, all the good stuff in life. But
Exactly.
if it's from the hormone changes, then that might get better when you start your HRT.
Okay. So the next question is from Stephanie. She wants to know, does melatonin at night affect the cream usage?
I mean, it shouldn't. I guess, is this melatonin cream that she's using?
I don't know. Are you, Stephanie, if you can put in the chat, if you are, what is she's typing. Let's see, what is she saying? Oh, it's a gummy, she says.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. That's good. Okay, sorry, let me go back up here. Lost my spot. Bum, 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 bum. Sorry, everybody. Hold on while I scroll backwards. I want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. Okay. So Cynthia says her doctor put her on a low dose of Prempro. It helped in the beginning with fatigue, but nothing with the weight gain. She's starting her 4th month of meds, and the overwhelming fatigue is starting to come back. Would our medications help her more? Her doctor isn't willing to give her a bigger dose because her estrogen level isn't quite in the menopause range. It's just slightly over.
So the interesting thing with Prempro is that, this is one of our popular FDA-approved pharmaceutical versions of HRT. It has the Prem part is Premarin, and the Pro part is progesterone. So when you still have your uterus, you need progesterone along with your estrogen. But Premarin, the word Premarin comes from pregnant mare's urine. So it actually is hormones that they're derived from pregnant horses. And so there's a lot of other estrogens in that medication that are not biologically active in a human female body. So I've noticed just in my own patient population over the years that they do not as good with Premarin because it's a lot of other hormones that actually aren't really helping them compared to what our body actually needs, which is mainly estradiol and estriol, like the hormone versions of estrogen that we actually produce in our own body. So that might be why, you're not, because you're going to need to take a lot more Prempro to get the doses of estradiol and estriol that you need compared to just taking those 2 versions of estrogen, which is what we prescribe. And so that might be, you might do better with Winona. I mean, trying HRT I like to equate to trying on clothes. Angela's heard this analogy before because I use it over and over again, but it's a way to kind of visually see, but like every woman likes a different cut, a different style, and sometimes we just never know until we try a particular medication on you if that's the one that fits you best. We never really know until we try. So if you've been on this for a few months and you're not feeling great on it, why not try Winona? Try something different, see if you get a better result. I think it's worthwhile to give it a try, especially if your doctor's not willing to adjust dosage or medication and is kind of inflexible with that. That's why we're here.
Excuse me. Okay, we have...
I found a protein calculator too that I wanted to put on here.
Oh, yes, please do.
It actually, so this protein calculator, asks you your height and weight and actually what your activity level is, what kind of intense exercise you're doing, and it'll adjust based on that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to need that too. Thanks, Dr. Kat. Uh-huh. Look at how resourceful we are today.
I know. We're putting all kinds of links up.
Mm-hmm. Look out. Who doesn't like some links? Yeah, I think it's good to have that because, most people, you get a lot of referrals or recommendations for things, but then you don't know how to calculate it. And you're sort of like,
Yeah.
What do I do with that? So. See, then it means you have to be honest about your exercise, right?
Yes.
You can't do like I do and be like, well, this is 6 to 8 days or 6 to 7 days. And you're like, well, maybe no, I do 2 or 3 really, but I want to sound better than that. So I'm going to say 5 or 6.
So one of the things I really like, and I had one before, but really in perimenopause, this really helped me, is the fitness tracker. So a lot of people have them on their phones now too, if you keep your phone in your pocket. And there's a lot of different companies that make them. Mine is a Fitbit, but there's anything out there. But the nice thing I like about it is that it actually tracks my steps, and it's like a competition with myself. It'll buzz if I haven't hit a target by a certain time of the day. And actually when I'm at work, at the hospital doing labor and delivery shifts, I'll set it to go off. If I haven't moved a certain number of steps in the hour, it'll buzz and it'll remind me time to get up, because I sit in front of a computer a lot there. But it also tracks your sleep too. So if you want to know in menopause, how much am I really sleeping? It's nice because these things track that as well. So I don't know, that's what I really like to do, to track the exercise, because you can't lie when it's tracking what your body is actually doing, moving.
No, the Apple Watch is pretty shameful though. It'll be you haven't moved to get up. It has little, you haven't moved, but it'll give you the exercise rings to nudge you, you did it yesterday, or, it'll kind of a streak you're on. But then
see, I'm an Android person, so that's why I have the Fitbit. So I don't have the Apple stuff.
It's good and it's bad, because when you don't do it, it also reminds you hey, let's go. And you're yeah.
We can all use a gentle nudge.
Yeah. So it's good to know. Technology is also nudging you. Okay. So we have a question about, somebody else is commenting that weight gain has increased joint pain and tiredness, that it's not just about the weight gain, or the size, but it's how you're feeling in your body. I think that was a comment, not necessarily a question. That other women are saying, yes, fatigue, hip, back, joint pain. Everybody's kind of chiming in on I think this was when we were probably talking about all the weight gain. Okay, Jennifer says she started the patch and feels like she has more energy, but it has caused her to have horrible, horrible rage issues. She's flying off the handle and so moody. Please tell me that's temporary.
What did you say she's taking?
The patch.
Okay. Is she taking anything else along with the patch? Did she mention?
Jennifer, if you're still on here, message us. She's typing. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Let's see.
Because I was going to say that estrogen alone and progesterone, I really don't see a lot of mood changes significantly, but the DHEA, sometimes in some patients, it can cause more extreme mood swings and kind of irritability in some patients. And so I was just curious to see if she was taking DHEA as well.
She says only the patch right now.
Okay. That's unique. So,
oh, she's scared about DHEA because she doesn't want to make it worse. That makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think that, and how long did she say she's been on it?
I don't know. Jennifer, how long have you been on it? A week.
Okay. Give him more time. Just like in the patient earlier that talked about the hot flashes getting worse, like suddenly we're replacing and giving you hormone that was, pretty low. And suddenly your body's trying to figure out what to do with all this extra hormone in your system. That might be kind of showing itself and displaying itself with the mood changes. And so you need to give your body a chance to acclimate to this new hormone environment. So don't despair. Get out in the garden and outside and get some sunshine and let the mood dissolve.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. What else do we have going on here? Sandra says prior to going on hormones, she was having a lot of lower back pain, and the pain was starting to affect her hands and wrist. She's happy the pain has gone down significantly in the last month and has been on hormones for about 3 months, but she wonders if the hormones are taking away the pain, but could I still have inflammation in my joints and should I get it checked out?
Well, it's not going to take away the pain. Hormones are not pain medications, right? So the way that the hormones are helping with joint pain is that like all of our tissues in our body, when we lose estrogen, are not as strong or healthy, right? So it includes our joints, our ligaments, our tendons. So when we replace estrogen, which in a woman's body, estrogen kind of makes everything function at its best. Our skin gets more elastic, more supple. Same thing to our ligaments and tendons. So like if you have arthritis and you have joint pain related to that, hormones would typically help that. That doesn't mean there's not inflammation there. The inflammation might still be there. It's just that the tissues themselves are acting a little healthier, so you might not feel the pain as bad. If you're concerned and if you think that you want to get it checked out, get it checked out. There's nothing wrong with getting evaluated, but if you're feeling well, that's a good sign.
Yeah. Okay. Denise has a follow-up to her last question. She says she wanted to follow up on the last question. The 200 milligram pellet of testosterone never got rid of any of her symptoms. It never gave her sex drive. I'm not sure what this is. I had NOBD in 3 years. They want to get 260 milligrams for the pellets now, which is why she was concerned that low testosterone for low doses of DHEA would get rid of the symptoms. Does that make sense?
It's confusing because she's saying that she was on 200, but then it never helped her symptoms. But then they want to go higher, so that's why she's looking into Winona, and now she's concerned that we're not going to give her enough, but she didn't get help with the symptoms on the other dose.
Denise,
right?
Can you clarify? It looks like she's typing. Yeah, can you clarify what you're saying so we can help you? What is she saying? Yeah, I think that a lot of people like the patch because you don't have to really futz with it, but then also the other things that come with the patch. So
I'm just scrolling through the comments. I love how somebody said it's so awesome to see you in mom mode.
No.
So we're human. We were real people with real lives.
Real people with real lives. True story. Oh, okay.
I'm a single mom, so there's nobody to kind of like co-parent with and to watch the kids. Like, so they're literally on electronics if I need to be focused on a computer.
Yep. Okay. Jennifer says wait. Oh, sorry, Monique. Monique is typing. We get an answer to the end of our Our last question. Sorry, we're hanging on this. Okay, while she writes that, do you want me to go to another question?
Sure. Somebody wrote about breakthrough bleeding. Did you see that one at 723? Susan.
Yeah, let's do that. So Susan says, how does HRT relate to breakthrough bleeding? Does it mean that maybe the dose is too low?
Not necessarily. So breakthrough bleeding basically is just the lining of your uterus, your endometrium responding to hormones. So the way that our uterus pretty much works when we're in our menstrual prime is that every month we're biologically programmed to fluff up that lining of the uterus to prepare for a pregnancy. And when we do not get pregnant, there's a hormonal cascade that causes us to shed that lining, which is when we have our period. So sometimes, depending on where you're at, if you're having cycles or not having cycles, we're giving you hormone replacement therapy. Suddenly your body's like, whoa, where am I in that sequence? Am I prepping for pregnancy? Am I shedding? What am I doing? And all of a sudden you get this breakthrough spotting or bleeding. It's just your body acclimating to the hormones, and it's usually temporary and it gets better on its own. If it continues several months into treatment where you're having bleeding that's irregular, that can mean that we might need to adjust your dose, either go down or go up, depending on the character of the bleeding. So it's something that you'll have to talk to your doctor about, so we can determine which way to adjust your medication if that's the case.
Okay, so Denise has clarified. She says, correct, they had her on a 200 milligram dose for a year that never helped. Now they want to put her on a 260 meg pellet to see if it can help. But she was told by the doctor it's not good to have a high dose of testosterone. So she's wondering if DHEA, if the DHEA they want to give me will help. She's not in menopause, she's in perimenopause.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reluctant when someone's going through these symptoms. Like I don't think that testosterone alone is the answer. And if that's what you're taking, that I'm concerned that you're not getting the estrogen part that your body needs to. So I don't know if I would go for that if it were me, but clearly you're here, so you're looking for an alternative, Denise.
Yeah. That's the only thing. You can do the intro, take the quiz and see if, it can't hurt you to try Winona, but that's obviously a personal decision. So,
right. Exactly.
Whatever makes the most sense for you. Okay. I think we have one more.
Somebody asked about working out too. I just saw that.
Guidance. Any guidance on working out? Is high intensity cardio really bad?
It's not really bad. If you're used to doing high intensity cardio and it's something that, you have done regularly, even before this time in your life, then why not stop? I mean, why stop it? Basically, high intensity cardio is not helpful for weight loss or for strength. It's more for your cardiovascular fitness. One of the things that's really important, especially if we go through perimenopause and menopause, is actually strength training for women, because we lose muscle mass and we lose bone strength as we age. So estrogen kind of helps to kind of protect against osteoporosis and the bone loss, but you also need weight-bearing exercise. So it's actually more helpful to do like HIIT workouts, those high intensity training, or, to do lifting and do barbells. People do CrossFit. A lot of the nurses I work with do CrossFit like crazy. I can't because I have some back issues, but like they're carrying around those kettlebells and flipping tires and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So just find something that you feel comfortable. It's more about just moving your body, like just moving your body every day. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes. A lot of us have this kind of like all or none thinking, and that we think that like we need to go out and do a perfect workout and do 30 minutes of this and that for it to even count. But even 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, parking further away from the entrance to the grocery store and walking further, like all these little changes that you can do in your life are worthwhile, positive changes just to get your body to move more.
Right. Yeah, moving your body, important. Everything gets so stiff if you don't move. Everything in the body. Julie has a question for us. She says she's 46. She started perimenopause in 2017 and has endometriosis. She's been on the NuvaRing and still remains on that along with her Winona treatment plan. Can she try to get off the ring now that she has her new prescriptions from us? She's afraid of any cysts starting, but hoping through the change that she won't have endometriosis flaring up. Is her risk lower now that she's almost through it?
Well, I mean, the risk of endometriosis getting worse goes down as you get toward menopause. But if you're 46 and you still need the ring for birth control, I would continue it. If that's your main reason for being on the ring, we generally recommend continuing contraception until the age of 50. Although it'd be extremely rare to have a spontaneous pregnancy at 48 or 49, it still can happen. I have patients that come in all the time, like that thought they were in menopause and then all of a sudden, get pregnant. So it can happen. So if you're using the ring for that, then I would go ahead and continue to use that until 50. If you were using it for another reason, like for menstrual regulation or for regulation of endometriosis, and you don't need it for the contraception part, then you could certainly try going off the NuvaRing. But the NuvaRing is a pretty low dose and it's, absorbed through the skin. So most patients do very well with that compared to like oral contraceptive pills.
Okay. We have a question from Dawn. Hey, Dawn.
Hi,
Dawn. She says, can menopause contribute to painful orgasms? Started experiencing those 6 months ago. Boo.
Oh. Oh. Sad emoji.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, so I guess the interesting thing, menopause can definitely contribute to painful sex because, our vaginal tissue responds to the loss of estrogen and then it loses its elasticity. The lining of the vagina gets thinner. But typically, orgasm is contractions of both the vaginal tissue, but also the muscles in the pelvic floor. And sometimes women can actually get contractions of the uterus itself if they still have their uterus as well. So if you're having pain with orgasm, it could be any of those different things. So it could be pelvic floor, which is basically, the muscles that support our pelvic organs. So in that case, doing Kegel exercises or even seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist would be a good option to get that evaluated to see if there's maybe there's a muscle in spasm. And then when you have an orgasm, that spasm is like getting tugged on. Who knows? But I would, if it were me, Dawn, I'd go see a pelvic floor physical therapist. There's, I'll email you later since I know you with a website that you can put in your zip code and search for a pelvic floor physical therapist so that you can find one if there's one near you. I kind of feel like in America, every woman who's ever had a baby or who's had a hysterectomy or surgery or has pain with sex should be able to see one and should have that readily available. In other countries, it's like part of standard postpartum care for a woman to have her postpartum visit and see a pelvic floor physical therapist to get all those tissues back to normal again after pushing a baby out. And I don't know why we don't do that more regularly here, but they can help tremendously with this specific issue.
That's awesome. Thanks. That's super helpful. I'm glad to hear. I don't have kids, but that's still helpful information.
Well, they treat other things too. Like I've had patients that have conditions called vaginismus, where basically, any kind of sex or penetration whatsoever is painful. And with pelvic floor physical therapy, they can actually start to have sex and have a good sex life. They'll actually do graduated dilator therapy. They start with something that's skinny, tiny, and work the muscles and try to see, and some of it's manual therapy and some of it's just working on the core and the pelvic muscle strength, but also the hip strength and lower ab strength. They do amazing work. But yeah, I'm going to write myself a note, Dawn, because if I don't, I will forget to send you that. So
that's great. Okay. Do we have any last questions? Anybody have anything? Final thoughts, questions, concerns? I think we made it through our list. Julie is typing something. Oh, she's just saying thank you. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kat, for hosting and doing your first solo webinar. It was
yes.
fun.
Actually, I think the vibe was good, Angela. Like with just female power. No offense to Dr. Green. I love working with him as well.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna vote in that we have female power once a month.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everybody. And please, if you have additional questions, as usual, please message your Winona doctor in the patient portal, because that's why they're there. And if you aren't already in the women's group on Facebook, join us. Don't be scared about the conversations there. It's just people sharing their fears or their successes or both. But you're welcome there. It's free. You can join us. And follow us on our socials. And, if you're looking for resources, there's plenty on our website. If you haven't yet, go to the Winona website. We have many journal articles that are written by our physicians that you can read.
And Bronte says good night.
Yay! Aw! Bye! Good night!
Say good night. All right. I want mommy back. It's time to get mommy back.
Oh. Thank you again so much for being here, everybody. And we'll see you in 2 weeks or in a month for the next one, or 2 weeks if you're a patient. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.